Thousands of international students, including Indians in Canada, are staging protests across the country. They fear deportation due to recent federal policy changes impacting immigrant workers under the Justin Trudeau government. So, what are the work permits and deportation fears? According to City News Toronto, over 70,000 graduates are at risk of deportation while their work permits expire later this year. The Canadian government's new policy, announced on Tuesday, will allow fewer temporary foreign workers. This follows the January decision to cut new international student permits by 35% starting from the 1st of September this year. Additionally, from September, international students will be limited to working only 24 hours a week off campus. Nationwide protests triggered. Students have been staging protests, including setting up encampments outside the Legislative Assembly in Prince Edward Island. Similar protests are happening in Ontario, Manitoba, and British Columbia. Protesters are reacting to provincial policies that have reduced permanent residency nominations, leaving many students vulnerable to deportation. Blame for housing and job crisis. International students and immigrant workers are also protesting narratives that blame them for housing and job shortages. Advocacy groups like the International Sikh Student Organization argue that these problems stem from a broader policy issue. Calls for government action. Student advocacy groups are urging the government to extend work permits and create clear paths to permanent residency, emphasizing their contributions to the economy of Canada. Federal policy changes. On Monday, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced tighter restrictions on temporary foreign workers in low-wage streams. Employers can now only hire up to 10% of their workforce from this category, down from 20%. The changes take effect on the 26th of September. Additionally, the government will stop processing applications from regions with unemployment rates over 6%, and workers can only stay in low-wage jobs for a maximum of 1 year, down from 2. Context and government response. The reliance on temporary foreign workers in Canada increased after the pandemic. In 2023, 83,643 positions were approved in the low-wage stream, a sharp rise from the 28,121 in 2019. The government also aims to reduce the proportion of temporary residents from 6.2% to 5% in the next 3 years, as stated by Canadian Immigration Minister Mark Miller.